Hi, thanks for stopping by and checking out today's video. I had a different video planned for today. I wanted to do a technical analysis video and talk about the markets a little bit, but I feel with the recent events in the Cardano space, it's important to have a conversation. So, what has happened recently? Well, we found out that a DEX aggregator has been overcharging on the slippage factor. They've been overcharging all transactions over the past 12 months. That's ridiculous. How could you not know after a few days, a week, maybe a couple weeks? But for 12 months, like, get out of here. Like, that's ridiculous. That's like if I saw somebody every single day, I'd punch them in the face. And then a year later, they were like, why do you keep punching me in the face? They would say that on the first day. Why did you punch me, bro? So 12 months is a little ridiculous. And then a lot of the people who were backing them up on Twitter, on YouTube, have been getting paid by them. Those are facts. It's not very good for the entire ecosystem. Now, one thing, the culprits, the DEX aggregator at large, has come up and said they're going to give a refund. That's good. They want to be in the ecosystem. They want to be here. Well, that's good. I don't want to see them just leave because that's not helpful at all. However, are they going to be used more and more or less and less? I would put money on less and less. I am definitely not going to use them. I haven't used them. I used them prior to MinSwap, but then once MinSwap came out, they weren't really that necessary, so I haven't used them. And I'm fine with that. I was in the option flow and the LiFi token sales, and I sold them, and I let my community know I'm selling them. Where do I do that? On Discord, obviously. I'm not a big Twitter fan, but I use it. It's like an unnecessary evil for me. Personally, I'm not a fan. Anyway, what else happened? Well, you had a couple big rugs actually in the space. One of them was Otaku Dragons. I'm not going to get into the whole details, but it's kind of terrible. You have some projects that rug right away. Most of them are slow rugs. And why is that? Well, in real life, businesses fail 90% of the time, 90% of the time in real life. And these are people with business experience that are starting businesses. In the NFT space, in the Cardano space in general, anyone can start a project. And that's a good thing, but it's also a bad thing. So it's like a double-edged sword. Because it's a bad thing because people without experience can start something. And sometimes they gain experience and do well. The majority of the time, that doesn't happen. And people with experience can fail or they can succeed. So it's kind of a touchy subject, and people look at this as more of a game, like, oh, I like this project, I'm going to mint. I like this project, I'm going to mint. And they don't really know that much about the project. How do I know that? Because I've talked to a lot of people. I've been in the space since 2021, made my first crypto purchase around 2015, 2016, but I didn't come into the Cardano space until 2021. So anyway, I have a list of things that I think could be helpful whenever you're looking at different projects. Do you want to be in the project? Do you not want to be? Do you want to be in it short term? Do you want to be in it long term? These are important questions. So number one I have is the team. How do they do things? How do they interact? How do they word different things? How do they, phrase stuff? Do they talk a lot about the project, or do they mostly just talk about a utility that may or may not be there? How do they engage with the community? How does the community engage with them? And I think that's kind of important. How would you look at that? Well, if a community member asks an important question, do they talk about that question, or do they skirt around it and avoid it? I think that's kind of important. How do they interact with their community? And I can tell you a bunch of projects, they're just terrible at this, but they're good speakers. And that seems to rise to the top. As long as you can communicate well and you're a good speaker and you have a loud voice, you rise to the top in Cardano, which is not necessarily a good thing. And that's why I'm doing this video today. So how do they interact with the questioning? Do they answer directly? Do they answer indirectly? Because when we're face to face talking, 60% of our body language actually tells what we're saying. Whereas if you're listening to a Twitter space, you have to be more meticulous about how you hear things. Are they answering the questions, or do they have certain talking points that they hit? Maybe they say it word for word on every single space that they've been on. That's important to look at stuff like that. And I look at stuff like that. Maybe you don't really have enough time, but somebody out there does. And you can compare. They said this on this space. What did they say on that one? You compare notes and stuff like that. That's what a good group of friends are supposed to be like an investment group, something like that. That's what my project is an investment group. We talk about projects and talk about stuff like that. I think it's important. Next is utility roadmap. Now, I put those two together because I think they go hand in hand. Like, you have a utility, but then the roadmap tells you exactly how you're going to get to that utility. Utility basically is value. Roadmap is how you're going to reach that value. So you have the value proposition, what you're going to do to get it, and the value comes out, and all the holders get that value. That's what that is. And then narrative. Narrative is what is around that project. What are they telling you? How do they act? Are they on Discord a lot? And when they're on Discord, are they helpful? Do they say nice things? What do they do and how do they interact? So all of these are correlated, obviously, but they're all important in its own right. Narrative is also what the project tells others, and it builds a narrative around the project. Are they transparent and open? Do they like answering questions? Do they ask you to ask more questions? Or do they only take certain questions, they handpick them, and then they say, I'm answering these questions and that's it? And then they have talking points for the rest. How is that narrative around the project? So they're either closed-minded or they're open-minded. They're very creative. They're not creative. It goes on and on, but it's very, very important. Next, out of these four, which are the most important in my eyes, is website. So website's number 5. How is their website? Like Linkage Finance, for example, that website's terrible. My 4-year-old nephew could build a better one. And I don't know who built that website. It's probably some kind of template that they just added some stuff to make it seem like their project, but it's terrible. And then for NFTs only is the art, because DeFi projects don't really have art unless they have an NFT attached, like a hungry cow, which is hideous looking. And that's very subjective, so maybe I shouldn't say that. But the art. So I like to look at art. I think that's important. And one thing that I used to look at, the supplier to follower ratio, which is basically the supply of the particular project to how many people are actually following on Twitter and Discord. You can take an average of those numbers, or you can just take one or the other. So that's kind of what I look for. So hopefully the video has kind of opened your eyes a little bit. Maybe you look for something different, maybe you don't, but comment section down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and you can start a conversation. So thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you around the crypto markets. Take care.